Welcome to Strip Cover Lit, where we squeeze the bigger picture of literature. I'm Adrian Ford, and we are here for the 44th video in the Writer's Quote series here on the channel. And I have been growing more and more infatuated with Flannery O'Connor as of late. Flannery O'Connor's writing is a specific type of terse. Her voice is, I won't say immediately recognizable or identifiable, but I think that once you were in that story and you were in that world, you really have a sense for things. So I was digging around a little bit online to see if I could find anything from Flannery O'Connor that would sort of help one intuit that type of voice. And I came across a quote from her on writing that does not do that, but I thought was not necessarily a craft level quote, but something worth conversation, something worth considering, something worth looking inside yourself. I think it's something I think that there is a moment, a threshold, maybe I should save this for a threshold over which all of us pass, where something like this is bridged in our writerhood. The quote from O'Connor reads as such: "I know well enough that very few people who are supposedly interested in writing are interested in writing well. They are interested in publishing something and, if possible, making a killing. They are interested in being a writer, not in writing. They are interested in seeing their names at the top of something printed. It matters not what." I think the world at large is a little bit over this because writers are not the celebrities that they once were. It was not all that long ago that Johnny Depp played the role of the crazed writer in the movie Rear Window, I think it was, something like that. This romanticized idea of the writer that we don't get anymore. We don't get that romanticized idea that much anymore. I think that for writers, it's still there. It's still alive. Because why wouldn't it be, right? And I know that I harp on that sometimes here, probably time and time again in this very series. This idea that one has of being a writer, the romantic idea of being the writer. But I think that there are easier avenues for that type of mindset in today's world. There is a small irony to that mindset in today's world, in that oftentimes that writer type, you just want to get big, want to get a big name. That becomes a YouTuber. That becomes a streamer. That becomes, you've got an OnlyFans. I don't know. Something like that though, right? Where there is no gatekeeper, but for writers of yore, they were the gatekeepers that allowed the prestige, right? I don't agree with gatekeepers. I don't want to sound that way. I don't want to sound that way at all. But I think that this compulsion to have your name get big, this compulsion towards fame, goes many other directions in today's world besides being a writer. But there are still weird little quirks in writers' communities, if you will, for that. The thing that often gets me, and I don't understand it, and I'm not making this video to curse at the wind like the old codger that I am. I don't understand the writers' communities on Twitter. That seems, to me, something like this quote from Flannery O'Connor. That's how it seems to me. I understand that really, more than that, what it is it's a support group for a hobby where there's no support groups, right? No one wants to read your manuscript. No one wants to read your short story. No one wants to read your goddamn poems. No one does. That's something we all have to live with. But I think there's a certain type of authenticity which comes with that. Sometimes we forsake a little of it to talk about our projects on YouTube, to talk about our projects on Twitter. I don't want to say bite the bullet, but something comparable when we force a friend or a loved one through reading one of our projects. So what is it? What is it to be the scribbler? What is it to be the writer? The idea of fame and wealth and prestige no longer there, especially so long as Stephen King refuses to kick off, right? Stephen King gets everything published that he deigns to put to paper, which is just what's the phrase? Eating the oxygen in the room. So what is it? I think that's a loaded question. I don't think that any of us can really say what it is, because we don't know. This compulsion to write, this need to tell stories, this need to say things in the way that we do, as opposed to, on camera here, as opposed to on a podium, at a podium, on a stage. We're not politicians. We're writers. We probably don't even like politicians. Not real writers, right? Some of you get too carried away with that stuff. But what is the compulsion to write? I wonder, and so this is probably going to be an absolutely worthless craft-less video in a playlist about craft, but I think that the conversation for anyone who has gotten 44 videos into a series about writing, I think it's an important conversation or series of thoughts to have with yourself. At the end of it all, and this is something I don't submit anymore. I don't submit things. And if I do start submitting things, I think it would probably be with a pseudonym. I don't want attention for anything. At the end of it all, what is it worth to you? At the end of it all, because let's face it, there are few more socially destructive hobbies that one might have than being a writer. Not only does it keep you away from other people really do not even want to hear about it. If you have a train collection, people have train collections, there are undoubtedly other people in a community for collecting trains, train parts, train accessories, train people, all of these things that happen in those landscapes. There's someone there to listen to you. There's someone there who would like, and probably not immediately, but especially in the day and the age of the internet, you're going to be able to find some cool stuff if that's your thing. Not with writing. Not with writing. There's no cool stuff. There's just notebooks that get yellow and dusty, right? So at the end of it all, what is it worth to you as the writer if none of it goes anywhere? You never get that next great American novel penned. You never come up with that great poem that redefines poetry. You never revolutionize storytelling with the short story. You never bring it back. I'm bringing stories back. Yeah. You never do that. End of it all. What's it worth to you? Would it have been time well spent? It's worth considering. If there was some way to break you from this thing, this writing thing, a magic pill, little pill. Someone came to you today and said, hey, this scribbling that you're doing, being the scribbler, never going to lead to anything. You're never getting published, boss. You're never getting published. You can take this pill and never spend those hours at the computer again. Never be the weird guy in the corner at Starbucks who no one really likes because you're really there people watching and everyone sees you people watching. Everyone knows you're there doing that, right? Everyone thinks you're just judging them. That's what you're doing in actuality. Trying to understand, but you end up judging most of the time. You can take this pill and never deal with any of that again. Do you do it? I don't think I do. And I'm not saying that to be real and hip, authentic. I think that it's a real part of me. I think that being a writer has influenced many other aspects of my crotchety personality. What would you do? That is all I have for this video. I hope to have you back for the next writer's quote on the channel. I hope to have you back for the next video here on the channel. And yeah, I would appreciate it if you did leave me your answer to that question.